There was a hushed stillness to the night, as if the trees themselves were waiting with bated breath. Blackwood has always been a mysterious and shadowy location, but that night everything seemed different. The city life was too much for Lena, a young lady in her 20s, so she and her boyfriend just relocated to Blackwood. On the outskirts of town, she saw a wonderful old cottage that appeared like the ideal refuge. Its unearthly allure, along with its setting amid old trees, had quickly captured her attention. Lena noticed certain peculiarities as she became used to her new house. At night, she heard eerie sounds throughout the home, including footsteps, whispers, and what sounded like a music box playing a spooky tune that she couldn't quite place. She wrote them off as harmless peculiarities of an old house until she began having disturbingly real dreams. She would dreamlessly explore the home, finding darker and more ominous rooms as she went. A woman's quiet, melancholy screams echoed through the hallways, and she saw shadows move at the periphery of her vision. Dreams would invariably conclude with her staring into a broken, fading mirror, seeing a distorted reflection of herself. The living area was dark, but when Lena unpacked, she saw an antique bookcase against one wall. A notebook among the dusty tomes drew her attention. Former owner Samuel Hawthorne claimed ownership of it. Her interest piqued. She started reading. The diary described Samuel's personal encounters with the mansion, creating a terrifying portrait of a location that seemed to hold secrets from a bygone era. He chronicled the eerie incidents, nighttime whispering, and persistent nightmares that plagued him. As Lena read more of Samuel's journal, she couldn't escape the impression that her life was beginning to mimic his. From decades ago, one warning stuck out: "Beware the mirror, for it holds the key to the darkness that dwells within these walls. I can no longer take the weight of this house's secrets," Samuel wrote in his final journal post. "My soul, please God, take pity on me." Lena looked up from her notebook and felt her pulse rush as she saw the identical break in her own home's mirror that she had seen in her fantasies. The mirror appeared to be a portal to a parallel universe where dark powers were gathering strength with each passing day. As darkness fell once more over Blackwood, Lena could not shake the impression that her new home concealed a dark and ancient force. No matter how terrible it was, she knew she had to find out the truth. She had no idea that her descent into the unknown had only begun, or that the horrors awaiting her were unfathomable. As Lena's interest in the notebook developed, she started learning about the background of both her home and the city of Blackwood. Then, while doing research on the previous owners of her house, the Hawthorns, she uncovered a local urban legend about a cursed mirror that had belonged to them. It was claimed that the mirror could expose one's darkest secrets, but it came at a horrible price. Lena decided to go to the local historical society to learn more about the mirror and its possible relation to her disturbing nightmares. Mrs. Perkins, an elderly librarian, had spent her whole life in Blackwood and had heard tales about the mysterious mirror. Mrs. Perkins took Lena into a musty room stacked with old books and papers that were in danger of crumbling to pieces. From their research, they learned that the Hawthorne family had handed the mirror down through the ages, usually together with stories of tragedy and insanity. It was said that a malicious ghost resided in the mirror and drank the souls of people who looked into it. A tattered portrait of Samuel Hawthorne, the journal's author, was displayed for Lena by the librarian. In the photo, he is seen standing in front of the same mirror that Lena had seen in her visions. Albeit in reality, the mirror had an ominous break in it. As Lena processed the implications of this information, her pulse quickened. In the evening, Lena took her newfound knowledge and went home to meet the mirror in an effort to learn its mysteries. She stood in front of it, her reflection warped by the fissure, and said the words she had found in Samuel's journal: "I seek the truth no matter the cost." The room turned frigid, and the reflection in the mirror appeared to come to life as the words left her mouth. Lena was compelled to reach out and touch the glass as shadows danced inside its depths. She reached out to touch the mirror, and as soon as her fingertips made contact, she was sucked into a terrifying new world. Lena found the tortured spirits of others who have looked into the mirror before her in this dark realm. Their fingers stretched out to her, impossibly long and bony, and their faces distorted in mute cries of agony. Lena looked into the mirror, and a sneering, mocking reflection beamed back at her. Lena was trapped in front of a mirror, and she had to get out of there as quickly as possible. Her final heartfelt cry was, "I reject the darkness." Suddenly, she was ripped from the mirror's grip and deposited back into her own living room, panting heavily. The fractured and sinister mirror loomed before her, but there was a distinct vibe in the room now, as if whatever evil force had been there had been diminished. Lena understood that her exploration of the mirror's curse had only scraped the surface, and that the actual horrors of Blackwood lay underneath. She gazed at herself in the glass, and she imagined that she could hear voices calling out to her from the darkness. No matter the risk to her sanity or her soul, she was grimly determined to learn more about the secrets of the mirror and the dark past of her house. As the weeks stretched into months, Lena's fixation with the evil mirror only intensified. Even as she tried to ignore it, she couldn't shake the sensation that it was crucial to comprehending the evil spirits that afflicted her home and the rest of Blackwood. Despite the terrifying dreams and terrifying occurrences, she just couldn't let go of it. Instead, she was driven by a desire to understand its intricacies. Professor Edwin Sinclair, a local historian, was the subject of Lena's investigation. He was well respected for his knowledge of the occult and for exploring Blackwood's shadowy past. Later that week, she paid him a visit at his disorganized, low-lit office. Lena told the professor about her encounters with the mirror and the journal's frightening predictions, and the professor listened carefully. He nodded somberly, confirming that the Hawthorne family had been afflicted by a wicked force for centuries thanks to the mirror. Professor Sinclair said that Blackwood's founder, Nathaniel Hawthorne, had brought the mirror to the town in the 18th century. It was said to be a cursed relic from the ancient world, whose evil power had been used in dreadful ceremonies. Many people's lives and sanity have been taken by its glare over the decades. Under the professor's tutelage, Lena set out on an adventure to learn more about the history of the mirror and the rituals that had linked the evil thing to it. Their investigation uncovered a long-forgotten room under her home that had lain dormant for millennia. There was an antique book written in a language none of them could read as they descended into the musty room. The sheets were covered in complex designs and symbols, some of which were eerily similar to the mirror's fracture. The mirror was obviously significant to the book's occult rituals. Lena's hands shook as she grasped the seriousness of the predicament. The mirror was more than a cursed artifact. It was a portal to a realm of horrible terror, and the malicious monster within it was only becoming stronger as time went on. Together with Professor Sinclair, Lena was determined to break the spell and free her home from the ancient evil that had been lingering there. For a purification ceremony that would force them to face the evil spirit inside the mirror, they would need to collect rare and potent items. Lena worried that she was leading the professor and herself into a fatal trap as they prepared for the risky attempt. The mirror looked to be alive with evil intent, and the hushed voices behind it became steadily more menacing as time went on. But Lena knew she couldn't go back now. Too much was at stake, both for Blackwood and for her own immortality. She had no idea that the evil spirit within the mirror had its own agenda and would stop at nothing to protect its shadowy secrets. A chill ran down Lena's spine when the night of the purifying ceremony arrived in Blackwood. She and Professor Sinclair had gathered the unusual plants and old holy water used in the ritual. The only things protecting the evil monster within the cursed mirror from the professor's knowledge were Lena's unyielding determination. They opened the Book of Dark Rites and stood before the mirror in the secret chamber, which served as an altar. The mirror's fracture now glowed with an awful light, giving off the impression that it was pulsating with malice. The chamber got colder, and the professor's and Lena's shadows swirled menacingly as they began to chant the incantations from the ancient book. The mirror's caustic undertones intensified as the ceremony continued. It tormented them by bringing up traumatic recollections and dreams from their past and playing on their innermost anxieties. It was an attempt to divert their attention and make them question their mission, but Lena and Professor Sinclair remained firm in their resolve. Their voices remained even and resolute as they continued to chant. Unseen powers rattled the room, and a dark creature with bloodshot eyes emerged from the mirror to confront them. Within the room, a war between day and night raged. Lena and the professor stood firm, using the holy water and the plants grown under the moonlight as weapons against the evil force. The entity's shape changed as its power dwindled with each stanza of the spell. The evil spirit made one last, desperate attempt to get to Lena by lunging at her, its black tendrils encircling her. Its chilling hold on her spirit was palpable, and she felt it threatening to swallow her whole. She held on to her resolve and her belief in the ceremony, and with the professor's assistance, they sang the final line. The evil spirit was driven away with a frightening scream as a flash of light exploded from the mirror. Blackwood's centuries-long struggle with the shadows ended when the mirror cracked and broke into 1,000 pieces. Lena and Professor Sinclair emerged from the secret chamber, their faces marked by exhaustion and victory. Her home and all of Blackwood were freed from the curse that had plagued them. Lena stared as the sun rose over Blackwood and illuminated the broken mirror. It disintegrated into dust, marking the final defeat of the evil force that had plagued humanity for millennia. Lena realized that she would never be the same after going through what she experienced with the mirror. However, she had also found the fortitude inside herself to face the worst atrocities and come out on top. Blackwood's occupants could finally get some rest after decades of being tormented by ghostly voices and sinister shadows, for the curse had been removed. But Lena would never forget her fight against the cursed mirror, a constant reminder of the sacrifice she made to expose the truth and free Blackwood from the thrall of an ancient evil. Looking about, she couldn't help but wonder whether more such horrors lay dormant in the town's history, waiting to be discovered by people with the courage to face them.